What's up, everyone? Welcome back once again to the Football Goons podcast. This week, we're talking and taking a few minutes to talk through some of the bigger stories around the league during the mini camp portion of the offseason. Look, I'm just going to be honest with you and just level with you here. There's not a ton going on in the NFL world right now. This is probably the quietest time of the calendar year for the NFL. So we're also going to throw out some random fun questions as well, looking ahead to the 2018 season. We are officially 88 days to kickoff as of today. So now is definitely the time to start ramping up the NFL talk and to get into the 2018 season. All right, guys, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into things here tonight. I saw something on social media from a mutual friend of all of us, basically. There's an argument conversation going on right now. So I figured we would have it here, but I'm going to broaden it a little bit, okay? The typical conversation that happens is, what is better, Sheetz or Wawa? And if you're not from, the Northeast, like most of us are, you may be wondering, what the heck are you talking about? So I'm going to broaden it and open it up to pretty much anything that is like a gas and made to order stop. We could throw Royal Farms into the mix here. We could throw 7-Eleven into the mix here. I need to know, though, what is the best one stop for gas and made to order?
7-Eleven is disgusting. Every 7-Eleven I've ever walked into, I felt like I needed a shower after I left. So I'm not going to speak to the quality of the food, but just clean up.
I've never bought something from 7-Eleven, but I go almost every year on 7-Eleven and get that free slushie. I've never bought something from them ever.
So you're telling me 7-Eleven through history is like in the red because of you? Like, focus solely on you as a customer, they've lost money.
Yeah, I mean, they lose about $2 a year just on me. And a lot of times I'll load up like my whole car and take a whole load of people and we don't buy anything.
That's terrible. I think for me, living, that specific conversation, it's always the one that I miss. Like when we went to school, when we went to college and it was Wawa everywhere, I miss Sheetz, and it was like special to go to Sheetz.
We would drive like 40 minutes.
Yeah, we would pass 2 Wawas on the way to Sheetz. And now I live back in Sheetz territory, and I'm dying for Wawa all the time. So I think it's just whichever one that you don't have is the one that you want. Welcome to life.
Yeah, I can boldly say that
that's always greener. Huh?
I can boldly say that that's not the case. I've lived in the most places of the 4 of us, I believe. And I don't think it's very close because I don't think the 3 of you have ever lived outside of the state of Pennsylvania.
And you've been without both the most too.
And I've been without both the most also. I've had 7-Eleven, I've had Turkey Hill, I've had, Rutter's, I've had Sheetz, Wawa. There's a nostalgia thing for Sheetz for me because when we were all in college, it was the one I wanted the most because it was the furthest away. We didn't have it. But looking back, hands down, it's got to be Wawa. I don't think it's even close anymore. I've had Sheetz and Wawa now since, graduating from college and being away from it, and Wawa's the better, stand the test of time place to go.
Royal Farms shouldn't be ignored here.
Yes, it should.
That chocolate bar you introduced me to there?
Oh, man. The Royal Farms, if for nothing other than go get some chicken and their candy bars.
Yeah.
Like the Royal Farms made candy bars are phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
It's clean, 7-Eleven.
Whoa. I'm taking issue with that right there. And I know this is probably like a one-off thing.
7-Eleven is not clean. You can't argue that.
No, I'm not arguing that.
Okay.
You said Royal Farms is clean.
Oh.
Look, I'm coming fresh off of a road trip this past week. 7 hours down, 7 hours back through the heart of basically any one stop that you want down, along Route 13. Royal Farms was disgusting. We stopped one time to change a diaper in the car and thought, oh, well, we'll hit the bathrooms, real quick while we're here as well. There were swarms of flies all over the entire store. It was disgusting. And it looked like a real nice place on the outside. I don't know what the story was. Maybe they were having a bad day. maybe something bad happened, whatever. I'm sure it's not the case of everyone. That's never happened to me in a Wawa. Never once. All I get at Wawa is affordable gas, amazing stuffed pretzels, Siptopia. All right. I was explaining this to my wife the other day. Siptopia is $1.99 for any handcrafted drink. So you can't beat that. But if you gave me Siptopia and Hoagie Fest at the same time, my head would literally explode off my shoulders.
You guys remember last time we were out at your house last summer, and that person had a stroke right in front of us at Rudders or at Royal Farms. Like it was just that person was talking and no words came out. Like what? You're not saying anything right now. It's Sheets for me. It's Sheets and it's not close for me. I have Sheets. I go there at least once a week. And there's never been a time I've gone to Sheets and thought, I wish I was at Wawa. Never once. And I haven't been to Wawa in a long time, other than to get gas. Since I've been out here, I don't think I've eaten food there. But Sheets' menu has grown exponentially. So you should try it again.
All right, well, chime in. Let us know on social media your favorite one-stop shop. Is it Wawa? Is it Sheets? Is it Royal Farms? Is it 7-Eleven? Is it Turkey Hill? One of these ones that I'm missing. Everyone obviously can boast something good about it, but we got to know from you which one is the absolute best. All right, let's get into some of our mini camp discussions here. One of the big stories earlier this week was that a random Reddit user floated a rumor out there that Rob Gronkowski was unhappy with Bill Belichick and that the Patriots were exploring trading him, and it was going to be done by the end of the week. Now, obviously it was debunked, and, maybe there's some truth to him being unhappy, but we're not buying it. Let's just say that. Where, though, would a realistic landing spot for him be if that had been true?
First of all, I don't think it's dead. I think it's alive and well. Just because it didn't happen that week, I don't think the guy's wrong. I don't think Gronk is overly happy there. I mean, yes, he's probably happy from a winning standpoint, but like his personality, we've said this all along, has never fit there, and they let it slide as long as they could. But they're at the point where they can win games with or without Gronkowski. It's not. I mean, he's not the reason they're going to win a football game. So, as good as he is, that's kind of by the wayside. I think the best fit for him would probably be Buffalo, because it's his hometown and his personality fits their fan base like 1,000%.
Because he'd be the one going through the flaming table.
Exactly. Exactly. But they're not going to trade him there. So the other option I thought of was I thought he would be a pretty good fit in San Francisco, being that he's knows Jimmy. They could use an upgraded tight end. They could use an upgrade with a playmaker in general. And I think that's like a good tight end is a young quarterback's best friend. I've always said that. So.
And they have the money too. I do buy it. I actually buy it every inch of this story, including the fact that he wasn't traded because Tom Brady came in and said, I'm retiring if you trade Rob Gronkowski. I buy it all up. I don't know why. Maybe I was just in a conspiracy mood this week. I'm not sure. But I buy it up. And I agree, though, Rock. Actually, the rumor was to San Francisco, and I think that's a great fit for all the reasons you said, but also because they have the money to give him what he wants contract-wise. But it can't be said that 3.5 years Jimmy Garoppolo threw to Rob Gronkowski. He already knows about it because Brady doesn't practice all the time. He takes his Wednesdays off, and Jimmy was the number one quarterback on Wednesday. So he does have a little bit of a rapport with him already. So I buy it, though.
I actually buy it too. I think that's possible. And he already isn't playing a full year for them ever. So why not hedge their bets here and get something for him while they can and unload that huge contract? I actually picked the Texans. I think that he's a great fit there. Their offense is already coming along huge. Now Deshaun Watson hopefully coming back healthy. They already started to rebuild the defense. They put pieces together on the offense, and they have the money. They have about $35 million this year, and then their cap space just keeps growing and growing with these young guys. So they're going to have to pay them at some point, but if you can get Gronk on maybe a 2-year deal here, it would be a great fit for them.
Yeah, I'm not buying it, and here's the biggest reason why. I mean, this guy came out and said, look, I'm just an average dude. I'm not an NFL source. I'm not an ESPN employee. I literally just made this up and floated it out there, and everyone ran with it. So I'm kind of taking him at his face value there a little bit, but also for the biggest reason, and this was kind of glossed over. The rumor was that if Gronk goes, Tom Brady was going to retire. I think that the Patriots are doing everything they can to hold it together for one more season with the cast and crew that they have and try and make one more run at it. I don't think Robert Kraft is going to allow this dynasty, this franchise to crumble. They're going to just try and ride it out for one more year. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see it after this season where Brady decides that he's done. They move on from Gronk. They kind of rebuild, revamp things a little bit. But I just don't think it's going to happen this offseason. I really don't. All right, guys. So of all the players on the comeback trail this season, which player are you most excited to see come back?
Well, my obvious answer is Carson Wentz. I mean, I'm an Eagles fan, and we have last year's. He was the lock for the MVP, and now obviously he goes down and doesn't win it, and so he's coming back with that ability, plus now the chip on his shoulder that he just watched his roster win a championship without him. So he's going to have a little bit extra than most Super Bowl defending quarterbacks have, which I think is pretty cool. So I think we're kind of in for a special season. But without being a homer, I'm just going running backs. David Johnson, Dalvin Cook, both of them. I can't separate which one I want to see more. Johnson, I think, is going to come back, be just as dominant as he was before. And let's be honest, he could break the receptions record with check down Sammy at quarterback. The longer Sam Bradford stays healthy, David Johnson's going to be the best receiver in the league because he's going to have the most targets. But that, and then on top of that, Dalvin Cook, I know it's a 4-game sample, which isn't a lot, but he was on pace for 1,776 yards from scrimmage and 8 touchdowns last year. That's a great, great rookie season. He's coming back to one of the best offenses in the entire league. And with Jerick McKinnon leaving, there's no reason he's not the leader in that backfield. I know Lat Murray's going to take some stuff, but Dalvin Cook's going to be the feature back. So both of those guys I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I figured I was going to say Wentz, but I figured one of you two would say it, so I kind of went in a different direction. And I don't know if that's Deshaun Watson. Like I'm anxious to see if he can stay at the production level that he was at early on last year, and if that means big things for the Texans going forward.
Yeah, I'm also on Deshaun Watson. Here's the biggest thing. There's so many storylines with this thing. Like, number one, all the questions about him coming out of college, and it felt like those were being erased at the time. I'm past that. I was always of the philosophy that he could be a good pro quarterback, but the bottom line is that we didn't see a huge sample size. So there's still doubters in that realm, but this guy was throwing 3 touchdowns a game as a starter. So look, I don't think he's going to keep up that pace, but just the element, the excitement that he brings, the big playability. He had 11 touchdowns off of play action last year in 6 games. He led the league by a lot in that category. So he opens up a whole new dimension for that offense for a team that should be pretty good around him. So I'm excited to see if he comes back healthy, what he could do coming off of that small sample size.
The crazy thing with that Deshaun Watson to me and the success that they had off of that is like his running back's Lamar Miller. Why are we that scared of that? And I know he's obviously very mobile, but he's not Michael Vick. I mean, there's no reason defenses were as scared of the Texans running game as the results showed they were. I mean, why was play action that successful?
Anybody want to guess who mine is?
Andrew Luck.
No, it's Spencer Ware. I'm excited to see Spencer Ware come back. He said he's chomping at the bit for his comeback.
You'd have been more believable if you went with Jamal Charles.
It's Jamal Charles.
Is he chomping or champing?
It's Arian Foster. Mine's no shocker. It's Andy. I can't wait to see him come back. I think it would probably be my answer even if I wasn't a Colts fan, just because I love how exciting he is to watch, especially when he's playing at the top of his game, how exciting and how excitable he is. He's just a fun guy to watch.
All right. So, we've all named a player there. Really, there's a lot to look forward to as far as guys who are coming back, and there's this whole comeback season series that's going on right now. It's an exciting time, like just because it felt like such a huge blow last year when all these guys went down. Now we're on the positive side of this, where we kind of get to see, how they revamp and how they come back from it. So I'm excited overall. All right, the last thing we want to talk about here with some mini camp specific things. Earl Thomas is sitting out. He's asking for a revamped contract, and there's some rumors and speculation out there that David Johnson may be sitting out. It could be an injury. It could be contract. Depends on who you ask. Some sources are saying that he wants to re-up his contract before he really gets into the thick of things. His agent is saying that he's not injured. There were some reports earlier this year that he was a little dinged up, but it's a pair of high-value names who are sitting out camp potentially due to contract disputes. It happens every year, so I've got to ask the question and float it out there. Where do you stand on sitting out for money versus showing up and practicing and playing it out?
I err a little bit more to the players, to be honest. I know that's kind of an unpopular opinion. Most of the time people want to millionaires complaining about money. I think, yeah, okay. So to me, you give me $4 million, I'm good. I don't care what my job is. I can make that work because I'm obviously making it work on slightly less money than $4 million.
3.7.
3.7 is about what I've been working with as a middle school teacher in Pennsylvania. That's what we get paid. But I think, I don't love complaining for more money, I guess, but the guaranteed money, I totally understand where these guys are coming from, whether it's just give me more guaranteed or entering a contract year. I want a little bit more security beyond this year because let's be honest, yes, it's a ton of money, but a lot of these guys, their career is over very quickly. I mean, you play 8 years in the NFL and that's impressive. That's a long time. And yeah, it's easy for me to sit here and say I can make 8 years of even the vet minimum last forever, but I don't have a lifestyle that's used to that money. So, they have to make some choices, I guess. But I think the part that I don't really care about is they're saying football, team sport, you're hurting your team. Listen, it's June. If you can't get some things going, team camaraderie and things like that in August and going forward, it wasn't going to happen in June. I mean, the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year in large part to how much they loved each other and the team atmosphere, and that was lauded like crazy. Well, one of their top 3 players, Fletcher Cox, didn't show up to mini camps. He didn't get there. He wasn't there, and no one cared. It was fine. They're all best friends. They win a ring. So I don't care about that aspect of it at all. Most of the guys that are holding out, like Earl Thomas, doesn't need OTAs to learn the defense and to learn how to react. Like, he's not learning anything in June. So if anything, the Seahawks should be happy that their young guys getting that reps, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, for me, I kind of get it.
I tend to agree with you. And I'll just add a little wrinkle.
Don't like it at all, actually.
I'm just going to add a little wrinkle to what you're saying, Miles, just real quick, because I'm on the same wavelength as you. But for a lot of these guys, and we're going to kind of fault them for this, but they don't have a lot of them don't have a fallback plan. Let's be honest. Let's call it what it is. So because they've committed so much time and so much of their life to playing football, and yes, they should make other plans. They should do that. But they're going to have to work twice as hard when it's done to go back and finish school or to start up something else. And they're going to have to invest in themselves again in that. So yes, we're talking about a lot of money, but they're going to also invest a lot of that back into themselves for the future, for the next aspect of their careers. And I think that's something that we tend to overlook just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they don't need the money, and I understand why they do what they do. I just don't like, I don't like the idea of giving another player a chance to steal my job. And I understand, you're David Johnson. No one's probably stealing your job because you're one of the 3 best guys in the league to do it. But Earl Thomas is not a spring chicken anymore. You know what I mean? You sit out and you're just giving a young rookie a chance to come in there and show what he can do. And they're like, well, why are we going to pay Earl Thomas more money when we got a guy that we trust behind him that has been here? You know what I mean? And like that's the risk you play. Like these guys are betting on themselves, and that's fine. But you can't be pissy if you bet on yourself and lose. Like that's not a thing.
I think most of these guys, and if not them, then their agent, are smart enough to think about that. Like, do you know who Earl Thomas's backup is?
Nobody does.
It's Akeem King. or maybe you want Cam Chancellor's backup. That's Mo Alexander. To give you an idea of how much that matters, they're both number 36. It's definitely getting cut. So, I mean, listen, if you're Earl Thomas and they had drafted Justin Reed in the first round, I don't think you can hold out. You know what I mean? But his job is secure if he shows up September 10th or whatever the day before the first game is. He'll be the starting free safety for the Seattle Seahawks.
Right. Yeah, I kind of find myself in the middle here. Not to be like hypocritical, but David Johnson's making like $1.9 million this year, and he's probably the maybe second best running back in the league. Lev Bell's holding out, and he's going to make a guaranteed $14.5 million. Now, I know it's under different situations, different circumstances, but there are times when it's definitely hurting your team, and especially with a guy like Lev that's had some injury history and soft tissue and serious injuries. A guy like that's holding out, it could potentially hurt him and his team. So I don't like that at all.
Yeah, and with David Johnson too, it's interesting to note, like, this is a new coaching staff. This is an offense that is largely going to have to funnel through him. So this is time that you're losing from maybe early installation of, a brand new offense or funneling, a whole new game plan that's basically going to center around you. So, I could see where that would weigh into things as well. So just interesting to talk about nonetheless. All right, let's look ahead a little bit here and answer some fun questions. All right. These are going to be looking a little bit more ahead, but in the scope of right now. And the first one I have is, who is the best backfield tandem in the league heading into 2018? And the basis for this is kind of like, there are so few guys who are the absolute number one guy that they only need to, to focus on, like a Lev Bell or a Zeke Elliott. But there's quite a few situations around the league where it's a two or, maybe more man backfield. So give me the best tandem heading into this season.
All right. I thought this was a joke question at first, to be honest. Like, we just saw the top tandem last year, and they're going to be back this year, minus 4 games. But on paper, it's got to be Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. Like, they complement each other the best of any tandem in terms of what Kamara gives you and what Ingram gives you. And they're both top 10 back potentials in real life and in fantasy. So I don't see how the answer is not them.
Not so fast, my friend.
Yes.
I honestly, by week 5, I could completely change this tune. My thing with the Kamara and Ingram, I know they were special last year. I want to see if Alvin Kamara can do it by himself. I have no reason to believe he can't at all, but I want to see it. I'm still going Atlanta. I'm still going Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman.
No,
why does can he do it on his own matter? He doesn't need to do it on his own to be a good tandem.
So I guess it depends how you're breaking down the question.
We don't know if Tevin can do it on his own.
See, we do, because when Freeman misses time, Coleman's excellent.
Yeah.
So and vice versa. Yeah, it is small. So I'm giving you that, and that's why I said, listen, if Kamara, I don't need him to be the best back in the league through 4 weeks, but if he plays like he did last year for 4 weeks without Ingram there to spell him, it's them. By week 5, there's no doubt it's them. But for me, it's the combination. I think Kamara Ingram is all that much better than what Freeman Coleman give you. And then we've seen both Freeman and Coleman do it on their own. Albeit, yes, in small sample sizes. Neither one's missed a full season or anything like that. But, I think we're kind of glossing over it. We almost touched on it the other week where it's like, it feels like Devonta Freeman's been around forever. And we're kind of getting there with Tevin Coleman too, because they've just both been relevant for multiple years. But it's because of that and we're just used to them, it's kind of easy to gloss over how truly really good both of these guys are. So I don't think the Kamara Ingram is ahead of them enough as a duo to separate what I've seen individually. Like I said, if Kamara looks great through 4, it's New Orleans.
Yeah, that's my pick as well. Is Atlanta, and it's for a lot of the same reasons. But like, I understand like the thought of complementing each other well, and I'm all for it. And I kind of want to just see them maintain that because I'm the first guy who's screaming about the inconsistency of Mark Ingram. So I want to see a little more consistency there through this year. I want to make sure that, you know, Kamara is the real deal. It's not just a flash in the pan kind of thing. And now that there's tape on him and teams expect things, that it changes. With Atlanta, Devonta Freeman is an excellent running back. He can run between the tackles, run outside. He can catch the ball. He can pass protect. He does everything. And when he's out and you bring Tevin Coleman in, nothing changes for your offense. He can do all of it and maybe some of it even better. So it's not like a situation where when you bring Ingram in, he's doing one thing. You bring Kamara in, he's doing another thing. These two guys are literally just doing it all. And the offense just doesn't change at all.
Yeah, they're second for me. I have them flip-flop like Rocco. I still have Ingram and Kamara number 1. I think I hear what you're saying, but it just the question doesn't lend itself to that really. I don't need Kamara to do it by himself as long as Ingram's there. If they're a duo, I think that it's them easily. But I do think Kamara can do it on his own. I'm excited to see what he does by himself.
Yeah, I have no reason to think he can't. I just
You want
curious to see it. You know, and I think part of it's also because he would hardly be the first guy to dominate as a rookie and then fall off the map as a player.
Right.
I mean, the league is littered with those guys. Even past rookies of the year went on to not do much. You can look over Rocco's shoulder and see Cadillac Williams' jersey. I mean, guy had a great rookie year, and then he was just okay from there forward. Bucks had Mike Williams at receiver. Great rookie year. Just okay from there forward. So, I mean, it's hard to sit here and say, oh, Kamara is going to fall off because you're dumb if you predict it. But there's precedent. It could happen.
Yeah. I'm just glad nobody went with the Titans because I saw a couple different publications who were ranking the Deion Lewis, Derrick Henry combo as number 2.
Dude, I thought you were going to go the Titans.
Look, I love me some Derrick Henry, but I'm not. They got worse.
Yeah. I agree.
If it was still Murray and Henry, maybe I'm interested, but they got worse as a duo. So I'm just glad nobody went there.
I would rank them behind a lot of I would rank them behind Dallas. Like, I'd rather have Zeke and whomever's his backup than Deion Lewis and Derrick Henry.
Right.
Well, anybody, I'm surprised that neither of you said the combination of Ajayi and Clement. Like,
nah, they're not on that level. I mean, listen, I love Philly. Ajayi Clement's great. I'm thrilled to death to have it. But even the biggest Eagles homer would trade Ajayi Clement in a second for Kamara Ingram or Coleman Freeman.
Well, I think there's something to be said for the way that they complement each other, though. Like, I think they complement each other better than any of the other pair. Well, I don't know if I would put them above Market and Alvin, but like Jay's your 1,000-yard back in a full season, and Clement is 80 to 90 catches out of the backfield. Like,
I think my issue is, as good as the compliment might be, I get your point. If you rank the 6 running backs, the Falcons, Saints, and Eagles guys, Ajayi and Clement are 5 and 6.
Right.
Like, I mean, they're not neither of them is better than any of the other 4 guys.
I guess I'm out on that because I don't think Tevin Coleman is all that special. I think
our entire credibility as a podcast just went in the toilet.
Oh, stop it! He had one good 10-game span when they made the Super Bowl, and that was it.
All right, we got to move on. Let's go on to something more serious. Like, if you had to bet an entire paycheck on one team,
that's a lot of money for Miles.
It's a lot for Miles. Like, so he's got a lot
1.2 or something.
I got like $60 riding on it. But if you had to bet an entire paycheck on one team to make the playoffs this year, who would it be? And I'm going to preface this by saying this is not as cake of a question as it had been in the past.
I would ask kindly if I could parlay my whole paycheck and give you 3, and I'd still be okay with the guarantee. I don't think there's any way.
I'll take that bet.
I'll take it.
I don't think there's any way that we don't see the Rams, Eagles, and Vikings all back representing the NFC in the playoffs next season.
I mean, there are a lot of ways that we don't see it.
A lot of ways.
Honestly, I think those 3 teams are too good to not be 3 of the best 6 teams in the NFC.
I get what you're saying, but honestly, my confidence level is just not that high on them. Like, all right, the Rams, it's kind of expected that they're going to be there. But like, would you be totally shocked if they kind of crash back down to reality a little bit, or San Francisco caused them to struggle?
If they crash down back to Jeff Fisher days, and suddenly with all the talent on that team, didn't finish at least 11-5, and if the 49ers somehow shock the world and beat them, like, I don't see any way they're worse than 10-6 and like the 5 seed. That's completely low end for the Rams.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And look, the Rams were one of the teams that I definitely considered, but like even the Vikings, like that's still a tough division. Like we don't necessarily love the Packers the same way that we did, but it's still Aaron Rodgers. Detroit is still a good team. Like they're just getting better. Again, I still think that you're most likely right, but my confidence level is not as strong as yours. However, I am going with the Rams just because the rest of the division is probably still too far off. I still think the 49ers are a year away from really giving them a run for that division. The Cardinals are going to have a rough season. I really believe that. I think they're going to be a top 5 pick next year. And the Seahawks, they've got Russell Wilson, but I don't know. I just feel like they're falling apart overall. What else do they really have at this point? Like how long can Russell Wilson maintain the level of play that he has to just kind of keep them as relevant as they were even last year? It just feels like it's the Rams to lose. And, you can kind of shoot holes in almost any team at this point, but I feel like the Rams are the best bet.
I don't understand how it's not the Eagles. I mean, I'm kind of speaking from homerism a little bit here, but I mean, the Eagles are better than the Rams, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. The rest of the NFC East is worse than the NFC West. And I don't mean to say the NFC West teams are all better than the next team in the East, but like second place right now, I'd probably take San Francisco over Dallas. Third place, I would absolutely take Seattle over Washington. I'd probably take the Giants over the Cardinals, but I don't think the NFC East is as close to Philly as the NFC West is to the Rams. The Eagles just won the Super Bowl and they unquestionably got better. Even ignoring the additions, they're getting Jason Peters, Darren Sproles, Carson Wentz, and Jordan Hicks back.
Yeah.
Then you add Michael Bennett, you add Mike Wallace. I mean, how are they not a better team than the 13-3 dominant Super Bowl team we just saw?
Part of it is not wanting to go full homer, and part of it is like the fact that over the last couple of years, like there's always been a team that just turns it around in the NFC East and is competitive again and shocks people and makes a playoff run. Honestly, like I wouldn't be terribly shocked if the Giants, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but if they caused the Eagles to trip up, or it wouldn't be totally shocking based on the history of that division is my point, I guess.
I have Dallas as a wild card contender. I just don't think it matters. Again, on paper, which is all we have right now, Philly is so much better than those other 3 teams. It's not even close.
The only thing that I have Philly on there. Like I said, you give me all 3 and I'll take it. I'll take that bet any day of the week. But the only thing I'll play devil's advocate a little bit with Philly is, do you get Carson Wentz back 100%? Like it's a question that has to be asked.
I don't think it matters.
It absolutely matters. Nick Foles is not going to give you that straight through for an entire season.
I think turning Carson Wentz into purely a pocket passer, he's still a top 10 quarterback in the league if he can't use his legs.
Yes, but you're assuming that like he's going to be a healthy pocket passer.
Yes,
but okay, that's what I'm saying. Like take Miles' guarantee off the table, and there's at least a question mark of, is Carson Wentz going to be 100% healthy?
If you give me 10,001 odds on anything, you take it.
Yeah.
So I'm not a gambling man. I like to hedge my bets. I'm taking the Patriots. I mean, they've been there 13 of the last 14 years. It's hard not to pick them. So just in probability, I like the Patriots.
I'm going to say that I had a really hard time picking the Patriots just because, like, what if we always say, like, especially like with aging groups, what if this is the year that it all falls apart for them? Like, if Tom gets hurt, they're awful.
I lost $40.
I don't think. Yeah, I had a really hard time with the Patriots just because if you look at the team around him
every year,
like if Tom goes down, but
14.
You know what though? When Tom went down, when Tom was suspended a couple of years ago, you at least had Jimmy Garoppolo, who Bill trusted in, apparently, and then Jacoby Brissett won a game by accident or, on purpose.
He ran the ball.
He ran the ball a little, some, but like now you don't even have that. Like you don't even have you don't have a reliable backup option if Brady does go down.
Yeah,
you're gonna trust in Rex Burkhead for 30 times a game?
Brian Hoyer, dude.
Oh, stop it.
I love Brian Hoyer.
Stop.
Listen, like I get what you're saying with the probability, but and I'm going to save a lot of this for some of our prediction kind of stuff, but I think we've seen the end of the Patriots.
I hope you're right. I'll spend my paycheck for that to happen.
Nick Foles broke him, man.
I think we've seen the end of the Patriots, and I think more than anything, it's just they're crumbling from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
can Tom? So this is the question. You mentioned if Tom got hurt or whatever, but can Tom maintain his level of play with slightly, worse weapons around him at this point, and with a team who no longer really believes, at least on paper, in their head coach? That's the biggest question. So there's a lot of division there. So that's my reason I couldn't go with them. All right, heading into 2018, which division is the best in football?
It's got to be the NFC South at this point. I think, obviously 3 of them made the playoffs last year, and I think Tampa might have been the most disappointing team in football last year. Maybe the Raiders, maybe Tampa, I'm not sure. But, if Tampa rises to kind of expectations that we had of them, that's 4 teams. I'm not going to be surprised at all if any of them are in the playoffs, even in a really tough NFC. So I gave some thought to the NFC North. If Mitchell Trubisky makes the leap, we had this discussion the other day. If he makes a leap, that's 4 for 4 playoff caliber teams. And if Case Keenum last year wasn't an accident, and that's kind of the quarterback he is, then Denver's a better team too. So the AFC West is really good. So I think it's got to be one of those 3. But since there's fewer ifs, I'll go with the NFC South.
I actually picked those exact same 3 and landed on NFC South for my finale. Go ahead, Sal.
No, I didn't mean to cut you on, and I do apologize. Just we have some lagging issues. I think it might be with the host here, but it's the NFC South because look, you have 3 teams who right now are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. They're candidates to play in the Super Bowl. Like we could say that we feel strongly about the Vikings, the Rams, and the Eagles to be the best teams, but I don't think anybody would be like shocked beyond belief if the Falcons were there, or the Saints were there, or even the Panthers, if Cam Newton is playing at the level that we know that he can play. And again, the Bucs could easily be a playoff team. I'm not putting them as a Super Bowl candidate at this point, but 3 of the 4 teams are legitimate candidates to play in the Super Bowl. And to me, that's very telling of how strong that division is.
Yeah, you're talking about one miracle play away from the last 3 Super Bowls being NFC South teams, because the Panthers in 15, the Falcons in 16, and I believe the Saints would have beaten the Eagles in the NFC Championship last year, if not for the Minnesota Miracle. So I think it would have been 3 straight years of different South teams getting to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I like the NFC South too, and I'll probably catch some crap for this. I like the AFC South a lot more than than people give them credit for.
I'll take it.
I know you will. What? Well, you got a young Jaguars team with defense is very good. The Titans made the playoffs last year and should be getting better. If Mariota can take a step forward, then that team is going to take a step forward. Deshaun Watson's back, which gives them a formidable offense to go with an already great defense. And I think the Colts are clear 4 there in terms of talent. But if Andrew Luck's on the field, anything's possible.
Agreed.
So you have I don't think you have 4 playoff teams. I mean 4 Super Bowl teams, but I think you have 4 legitimate playoff contenders if Andrew Luck is healthy.
Yeah, that's kind of the tiebreaker for me. I think maybe you could twist the question and say which division is the race the most fun, and then the AFC South is definitely right there because those 4 teams are all good enough to win the division. But I think head to head with the NFC South, I'd rather have, like you just put it, Super Bowl contenders over division championship contenders.
Yep.
But you're right. The quarterbacks alone, if Mariota can leap or if Watson or Luck come back, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can give some credibility to it. I guess more from my perspective, I just wasn't ready to tighten up. So, all right, last one here before we wrap up this section. Give me a team who could realistically have a top 5 defense and offense in 2018.
I'm going with my boys here. Yeah, the Vikings. I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings here. I've been on their train and I'm proud of it. I'm sticking with it. They already were number 1 in defense last year, and they added Sheldon Richardson and Mike Hughes to their defense. And then they actually were 11th in offense, but that only breaks down to 19 yards per game to get to number 5. And they added Kirk Cousins and are getting Dalvin Cook back for hopefully 16 games instead of 4. So that team's not going anywhere. They're going to be tough as anything.
I actually, some might say this is cheating, but I think it's pretty brazen of me. The same way we did with a lock for the playoffs. I think there's 4 legitimate teams that I am not going to be surprised at if all 4 of them finish both 4 of the best teams in the NFL.
That's unlikely.
That's very unlikely.
I know it's very unlikely, but
I'll take that bet.
I think
10,000 to 1.
I think there's an argument to be said for all 4, and that's the chart. The Vikings. I agree with Miles. I think the Eagles are right there. I think the Rams are going to be there, and I like the San Diego Chargers to be there too. The San Diego Chargers are a sneaky one.
LA.
Oh, sorry, the LA Chargers. Man, it's going to take me a while to get used to.
Just because they shouldn't have moved doesn't mean we have to ignore that they did.
Exactly. The Chargers are the only kind of risky one, because you don't think of them necessarily. But the past couple of years, they've had top 10 offenses and defenses. They just can't put it together in the win category, which sucks for them. But they're statistically, they've been up in the top 10 in the league in both offense and defense for the past 4 years.
Yep.
So I like both of them. I like their offense and defense to turn a corner, as I think that team will turn a corner. But then the Rams, Vikings, and Eagles, I think all 4 of them will be in the top 5 next year.
Rocco, I got a serious question for you.
Yep.
What are you going to do without a whole month of paychecks? How are you going to live, man?
2 whole months, because I bet an entire.
It was just a whole paycheck, so we get paid every 2 weeks, right? I actually landed on the Vikings too. I was a doubter last year, and part of that was because I thought their defense was going to be great. I thought that they didn't have a quarterback still, and then they fell into one. Now they really fell into one with Kirk. So I like their weapons there. I like their defense. I love their defense. Gosh, I wish we had Xavier Rhodes, and I think that they're going to be outstanding this year.
Yeah, I'll ditto basically everything that Deal just said there. I was the captain of the anti-Viking ship because of their quarterback situation. Yeah. So basically, I'm giving them the kiss of death by jumping on now. But that's whatever at this point. So look, they were number 1 or 2 in almost every defensive metric last year. They really didn't get any worse. They should be consistently in the top 5 defensively this year. Offensively, you just added one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the league to one of the more underrated receiving groups in the league, who we still don't give enough credit to. improving offensive line, and as Miles said, Dalvin Cook, this could be a potentially explosive offense for the Vikings, which they've really not had since like Dante Culpepper. So this should be fun to watch. So, all right, let's talk about our friends at Gorb. If you haven't seen the hashtag Gorb, GHORBH movement on social media, you're probably not on social media. Everywhere I go, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, I'm seeing people talking about Gorb. And our friends at Gorb give us the reminder that in life, you've got two choices. You could either get hungry or be hungry. And personally, we're choosing to get hungry. That's why we've partnered with Gorb, because we believe in the message. We want to get hungry. We want to get after it. We want to pursue our dreams and the things that we're passionate about, and just go 110% after it all the time. Check them out at GHORBH.com. They've got something for literally everybody you could think of. Father's Day is coming up. If you need a gift idea for dad, get him some Gorb gear. He's going to look good. He's going to feel good. They've got all kinds of designs, colors, sizes. They've got you covered 100%. Check them out, GHORBH.com. All right, let's get a little bit of a quick fantasy fix here. And we're just going to spend a couple minutes here because we are looking forward a little bit to 2018. So let's talk a little bit about fantasy here, and we'll do this pretty quickly. Give me a player who can improve their draft stock significantly by having a good camp or OTA this offseason.
I'm going to cheat. Can I cheat?
Well, we always do, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely the culprit, but I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to give you Tyreek Hill. And the reason it's a cheat is I don't think his OTA matters. I'm watching Patrick Mahomes. And if Patrick Mahomes looks good, Hill absolutely needs to be considered a wide receiver one as you go into your draft. Half PPR, he finished 11th in 2016 as a rookie, and then last year jumped to 6th among wide receivers. Combine that with the fact that Mahomes fits Hill's skill set somehow even more than Alex Smith, believe it or not. He's going to be better than Alex Smith. And then they added Sammy Watkins on the other side. And honestly, like you think of Hill as the speedster. Well, Sammy Watkins is a little bit more of the one-trick pony speedster, whereas Hill has shown the ability to take any route and house it. I kind of think that really that Watkins boosts Hill's stock enough. But if Mahomes looks really good and looks like he's not going to struggle as he comes in his second year, I'm not going to be surprised at all if Tyreek Hill's a top 5 fantasy wide receiver.
I actually picked Patrick Mahomes.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the whole system there. Last year, Alex Smith was number 3 overall quarterback for fantasy football. And there's no reason to think that Patrick Mahomes isn't a little better athlete than Alex Smith. And, Alex Smith somehow rushed for 355 yards there. There's no reason to think that Pat can't rush for over 500, can rival for, top probably 2 or 3 as far as rushing quarterback in the league. And if he's the passer that we think he is, then he could easily jump up into the top 5 quarterbacks as far as fantasy goes for the scoring this season. And you're probably going to get him quarterback 15 or 16. So you're going to get a great value there for a guy that has top 5 potential.
So I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding the wide receiver position. Not so much at the top, but definitely let's say 5 through 15. I think one guy that can definitely improve his stock is a guy that Dylan and I love to talk about, Miles too, is Allen Robinson. If he comes out and has a good camp and shows some good chemistry early on in preseason with Trubisky in what will be obviously limited time because they don't play much in the first couple of preseason games. But by the time we're drafting fantasy, you could see this guy drop from the low teens to the high teens or even maybe a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. And I think it'll be justified at that point.
Yep. My guy's Nick Chubb of the Browns. Look, we've joked around about how Carlos Hyde was so highly ranked, and I think it was more like just a weird algorithm error or something early on in the process here. But Nick Chubb has every opportunity to go into mini camps and OTAs and push for the starting role. Like there's no excuse or no reason why Carlos Hyde has to be, the number one guy because he's got the veteran experience or because he's more highly thought of at this point in his career or whatever. This to me is a wide open job interview. And I don't know if it's just me, but I almost fall in love with like a Browns running back every year.
Yeah, it's just you.
It's a guarantee. Okay, because we weren't all in on Crowell last year either.
I'm playing.
But it's going to be even harder for you because it's Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Look, Chubb is a really, really, really good running back. I think that in this draft process, that got lost a little bit because there were so many good running backs. I'm not going to be surprised if Nick Chubb at the end of this season goes from a guy who we're thinking is a number 2 right now in the offense to like a top 12 finisher at the running back position this year. I will not be surprised at all. The talent is there. I think the opportunities are going to be there. And I think Baker Mayfield's going to open up some things for that offense as a whole. So that's where I'm going right now. All right, give me a player whose draft stock can tumble significantly as early as camp or OTAs.
I'm going to jump in first just to piggyback on what Sal said because I picked Carlos Hyde because I think Nick Chubb's going to go wild and I think that Carlos Hyde's going to fall off the map here, especially because he doesn't give you what Duke Johnson gives you in a clear-cut guy who's going to be their receiving back option. So once Chubb gets in there and shows what he could do, Carlos Hyde I think is going to fall by the wayside. So I think his stock is going to tumble big time here.
Yeah. Mine hurts a little bit. I'm a Kenyon Drake fan, but I'm going to say Kenyon Drake. It's possible for him to really struggle. Like I said, I'm a fan, but early mock reviews, his ADP, his average draft position right now is 35, which is squarely in the middle of round 4 in those 10-team leagues. If the summer comes around, August comes around, camp comes around, and Miami seems to want to give Frank Gore, sorry, I don't know where Gore came from, Frank Gore a lot of early down work, and then they might even show the desire that, they have a rookie, Kalen Ballage, who's pretty good, at times. I mean, he's a solid enough back that he deserves to be in the league. If they turn this into a real committee situation, well, 4th round is way too early to commit to Kenyon Drake. As much as I think he's a better player than those two guys, at least at this point in Gore's career, I'm not putting a 4th round pick in a timeshare back. So pending the way they seem to be splitting out these reps, I think Kenyon Drake really is overdrafted if that's what it looks like. Now, the way things seem, I think he's going to be their feature guy and Gore might vulture some stuff, but I don't mind him at a 4th round price. But the question said, who can tumble? I think that can tumble if there's a serious, backfield split going on there.
This is a crazy one for me, and he's already dropped a little bit. And this one, he's been kind of a staple in a lot of my teams. I think Shady McCoy could drop big for me, and he's had injury history. He's going to be 30, and they lost half their line this year. They lost their quarterback. They really don't have any receivers. Their defense is what it is. So Shady has to be really special this year at 30, having nagging injuries, having no team around him, having no line, which really scares me the most that he doesn't have a line because he already is susceptible to injury. Now he's going to just be getting crushed back there. I have him around 12, 13 right now. If we don't come out and see that the quarterback play is going to be something, there's somebody going to play quarterback for them, and that their line is kind of figuring it out, he's going to drop outside the top 20 for me pre-ranked.
Wow. Hey, mine is a guy that I was in love with this time last year, and that's Jay Ajayi. Look, I fully believe that he's going to have every opportunity to be the number 1 back in that offense, and I use the air quotes there because we know that's kind of like a situational revolving thing. But Corey Clement is coming on strong. I don't know that he's going to be like a true number 1 back, but he's going to be pushing for reps because we saw in the game that mattered the most how much they trusted in Corey Clement to put him into situations to be successful. So they liked what they saw enough that they were able to, feel good about moving on from LeGarrette Blount. They also have brought back Darren Sproles now. And we know that this team, this coaching staff has a little bit of an affinity for Darren Sproles. So they're going to find ways to get him the ball as well. I think the biggest thing is that if you don't see Jay Ajayi have like a really good offseason, really good summer here, really show that he's ready to be the guy, they're going to continue to move in a little bit more of like a 40, 30, 30 split in this offense. So he's got to do something in camp to show that he's explosive. He's looking to be the guy, to be their number one guy, in my opinion. Otherwise, they're going to go back to old reliable and Darren Sproles and get Clement more involved. They have to. He's a good back. He's knocking at the door for more touches and more reps.
That whole backfield is like the floor is lava for me.
Yeah.
I mean,
get off it quick enough.
It's almost like I know I want one of them, and by week 4, I'm gonna know which one I want, and it's too late. So I'm not gonna draft one and hope I nailed it. Especially like you said, Ajayi is the most terrifying one because you got to pay some cost for him. Like
right.
if you take Corey Clement in the 10th round, okay. If you are wrong, okay. I can't be wrong in the 5th round for Jay Ajayi. I just can't.
Yeah. All right, guys, this last question is going to be a tough one because it's going to potentially, give away a little bit of internal early thinking here. So I understand if you want to be, a little, all over the place with it. You don't want to dive too far into it at this point, but give me a running back, wide receiver, or tight end with a new team this year that you're expecting a fantasy resurgence from.
I know you're talking to me with that because I'm the one that complains about giving away my internal fantasy. But listen, you got to give the people what they want. So I'm going to be honest here. One of my major late round targets is going to be C.J. Anderson this year for the Panthers. They gave 198 carries to the corpse of Jonathan Stewart last year, and he did very little with those carries, and they still kept feeding him the ball. And listen, I know everybody's all over Christian McCaffrey. I think it's ridiculous to have him drafted in the 2nd, 3rd round like some people are doing it. I know our rankings are out, and I have him like 17th or something. Trust me, that's not sticking around because the Panthers are what they are, and I think that they want Christian McCaffrey to be more, not gimmicky, but not the feature back in any way. If they can give C.J. Anderson those carries, he quietly had a 1,000-yard season last year for Denver. Far worse offense, and it's shocking to say it, but he did. 1,007. He didn't make it by much, but he got there. All right, but I don't think the Panthers want to change that role. I think they want him to take on Jonathan Stewart's role. If he gets Stewart's per game carry numbers and then his own 4.1 yards per carry from last year, that's 866 yards. He has all the same TD vulture qualities that Jonathan Stewart will give you. So Stewart had 6 last year. There's no reason that can't become 7, 8 with C.J. Anderson's ability to take one in from not the 2-yard line. He might run one in from like the 7 and get that done. And he's not a great receiver, but he's more competent than Stewart is at this point in his career. So CJ's currently being drafted as running back 37 in round 12. I'm not going to be surprised at all if he has a lot of flex appeal by midseason. I mean, he's not going to be a top 10 runner, but where you're going to get to draft him, he's a startable player in bye weeks easily. I get is I like that. That's good. I didn't. That means I didn't spite you, so I still get to draft him late in our league.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just a guy that really wasn't super on my radar, but they're all really excellent points. So.
That's why I didn't want to answer this question.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm probably not taking him. So
good.
I'm definitely not taking him because I love Christian McCaffrey way too much. I'm holding out hope.
All right, I went with Allen Hurns. Look, the Cowboys' offense. I'm not sure what to expect there. We know they're going to be able to run the ball. We know that the option for play action is going to be opened up there. Can Dak do it with this cast that he's got? I'm not entirely sure. Deontay Thompson doesn't do anything for me. I don't know what you got in Michael Gallup. Cedric Wilson is not, leaping off the page at me. Terrence Williams is not a true number 1 wide receiver. They brought in Tavon Austin. It adds a little bit of a wrinkle to your offense, but I'm not super impressed there. Noah Brown has showed like a flash And by flash, I mean literally one flash. Cole Beasley, he's too busy doing rap battles.
Is this our Love to Hate podcast?
And they don't even have a tight end. I think their tight end is Rico Suave. So, like, listen, you look at a situation where a lot of times we kind of jump away from a situation where there's too many mouths to feed. There's really not even like mouths to feed there other than Allen Hurns. He's had, a down season the last 2 years. He had some injury issues last year, obviously, with the Jags. The year before that, he had a dip in production. Bortles played terrible during that stretch. 2015, he had a good season, 64 catches, 1,031 yards, 10 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to be a 10 touchdown guy, but I think you could be looking at a 64 to 74 catch range in this offense, 1,000 yards right around that area. And you could be looking at 6, 7, 8 touchdowns just because there's not a ton of options in that offense. He's a talented wide receiver. I don't know what it's going to do to not have too many other viable threats around him, but I think just the fact that they can run the ball so effectively is going to open up things for him. He could be a guy who's a fringe wide receiver too for you that not a lot of guys are really talking about at this point. So that's a guy who I like as a fresh face in a new place.
I wish this was a segment where we could argue with each other, but we'll get to that probably when we start talking more about fantasy later on. I had 2 names here. I went with the one who I felt was a little bit lower on the totem pole. The first guy I don't think is going to have as big of a hill to climb to get up there, but I'm going to be honest with you. As a homer, but also as a fantasy football player, I really like Terrell Pryor for the New York Jets this year. He had a bad season in Washington last year. That cannot be debated, but that does not change the physical abilities that man has. If he can get a little bit of chemistry going with who's ever going to play quarterback for the New York Jets, which I think really at this point is a 2-man race between Bridgewater and Darnold. I think McCown is there strictly for the purposes of mentoring those 2 players. But whichever one of them can develop some kind of chemistry with Pryor, I don't think he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, but you're going to get this guy and he's going to be like wide receiver 40 for most teams, if not lower. And he could wind up being absolutely the Jets' number 1 wide receiver going forward. There's questions around Robbie Anderson and his attitude and whether or not he's going to be on the field. Quincy's coming back from a pretty serious neck injury, although I do like Quincy Enunwa a lot. But Pryor is definitely the most talented, raw talent out of those 3 guys. So I think if he comes in, has a good camp, and develops a good relationship with either Bridgewater or Darnold, whoever winds up being the starter there, I think we can see a resurgence in Terrell Pryor.
All right, so Allen Robinson's my obvious one, but I've beat that horse enough, and I'll talk a lot more about him, I'm sure, in fantasy stuff coming up. But I'm going with an off-the-wall one here. I'm going with Kendall Wright. Were you ready for that one?
I was not ready for that.
No. Here we go. I like Kendall Wright to be a viable receiving option this season, especially if you're like me and you go running back early and often. And follow these stats with me. The first stat, Laquan Treadwell sucks. All right? Are we on the same page on that stat? So they don't have a third wide receiver. He's the third wide receiver. He's going to be the slot guy most of the time, or even if he's outside, I still like him. In 2016, when Kirk really ascended to the quarterback that the world thought deserved like $1 billion contract, his top 3 receivers had 1,041 yards, 1,005 yards, and 847 yards. His tight end had 686 yards. I think those are very attainable numbers in this offense. And last year on a dreadful Bears team, Kendall managed to get 59 receptions for 614 yards. He's had a share of injuries, but if he can stay healthy, I like him to go for 824 yards and match his career high in touchdowns at 6. Depending on his receptions, if you play in a PPR, that would have landed him in the top 20 to 25 last season. You can get a wide receiver 3 with your last pick. You can get him after defense and kicker. He's currently ADP 105 at wide receiver. So you're going to get him if you want him, and I think it's worth a streamer there.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the podcast. Be sure to keep up with us on social media. We're at facebook.com/footballgoons, at footballgoons on the Twitter, and right here on our YouTube channel live each and every Sunday night. You can subscribe, you can comment, you can like. We will interact with you on social media, so feel free to shout us out at any time about anything, whether it's, the one-stop shop debate, fantasy debates. You want to give us your best running back tandem for this year, feel free to do any of those things. And make sure you keep it locked at footballgoons.com all offseason as well, because unlike everybody else, we don't take an offseason. Our fantasy rankings are going to be continuously updating. We've got another big update coming up shortly here in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to start diving full steam ahead into the intensive fantasy football content. So keep it locked in, footballgoons.com. We'll catch you next time.